CHAMPS Hockey Time is presented by Alta Equipment Company, Michigan's #1 construction equipment provider with over 40 brands. Get the right equipment for your project every time. Also brought to you by the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association. For all things Michigan High School hockey, go to the Hub, MIHSHockeyHub.com. National Coney Island, doggone good. Lawrence Technological University, where Blue Devils dare. And the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
And welcome to State Champs Hockey Time. I'm Jonathan Kidd along with Sean Belize. And Sean,
what's up, buddy?
How's it going today?
Fantastic. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's do it.
You can watch our show on our website at statechampsnetwork.com, and it's also available on our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram channels. Sean, let's recap what happened last week. For over 50 years, Trenton and Cranbrook have played each other the night before Thanksgiving. Trenton, coming off a loss to UAD Jesuit, responded with a 5-2 win over Cranbrook.
Yeah, Trenton's one of the best teams in the state. It's interesting already, I think, John, Division II, there's no pecking order. I think there are 4 teams right now, and we'll get to them all one at a time. But I'll say them quickly. I think there's Trenton, there's Brother Rice, there's Livonia Stevenson, there's Heartland. That any one of them, if you said, hey, I think Trenton's the best in Division II, I'd go, okay. I think Livonia Stevenson's the best. Okay. Honestly, that's where we're at right now. So that's a good win for Coach Clements and his crew. Cranbrook, new coach, going to take some time. When you've been doing things one way for so many years, and another tip of the cap and thank you to Andy and everything that he's done, not only at Cranbrook but for high school hockey. I think Coach LaFontaine is going to get things going. But listen, this Trenton team is very, very dangerous, and a big one, as a matter of fact, tonight. I really like this matchup.
And we'll be talking about that a little bit later in the show. And we stayed downriver, Allen Park. They hosted their annual Thanksgiving Day tournament, and they came out with wins over Gibraltar Carlson and Woodhaven.
Hey, Jags were a team that made some noise. They popped up in the rankings a few times last year. I expect them to make an appearance sooner rather than later. They play really hard, so congratulations to the Jags for taking care of business.
All right, 2 teams that battle each other over the last few years in the Division I playoffs is Brighton and Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Seems like it's either the quarterfinals or the regional finals that they played each other in. And this year they played on Wednesday, and what a game, 3-2, Orchard Lake St. Mary's in overtime.
Doesn't it seem like it's always like that, too? It's a 3-2 game, a 4-3 game, whatever the case may be. You're right. It's almost like, rites of passage in the spring. You get March Madness coming out, and you get Orchard Lake St. Mary's and Brighton playing in the MHSAA playoffs. So it sounds like a dandy. 2 darn good teams that before all is said and done, they're going to have a big question for somebody. They might be the answer as well in Division I.
All right, 2 teams that battle each other always. Novi versus Northville. On Wednesday, they were at the Novi Ice Arena. A late power play goal by Northville to win 3-2, and they've responded on Saturday with a 4-3 win over Canton.
Well, let's start with Canton first. So many coaches out in the KLA told me, look out for Canton this year. And they're close but not cigar. If you've seen a lot of their games this year, they're this close. And so what happens as the season progresses is a lot of those close games start to become close wins. Look, I'm biased. I think you know this, John. I live out in Northville. I think Northville Novi is tremendous. They do a good job of filling up the arena. It's a great arena out there in Novi Ice Arena. So anytime those 2 teams get together, you crumble up the records, you throw it in the wastebasket. Always a fun night when Northville and Novi play.
Sean, in the preview last week, you said that a few coaches told you that look out for Ann Arbor Pioneer, and they have came out to a 3-0 start to the season. That included a 1-0 shutout win over Saline.
Well, keep winning. John, I'm not just saying this. The last few years I've done rankings, and this was one of the most difficult rankings that I've done. And those aren't just words, because there's so much parity, and you have teams, like an Allen Park, who we mentioned, like Ann Arbor Pioneer, who quite frankly deserve to be on this list. And I think as the season progresses, you're going to see those teams go like that. There are some ebbs and flows during the course of the season. It's a good problem to have in high school hockey.
The Salem Rocks made it to the Division I quarterfinals last year, and they had a good weekend this past week with wins over Cranbrook and Brighton in the Cranbrook Holiday Tournament.
Well, that's fantastic for Salem. I think Ryan Ossenmacher is a guy that he's been knocking on the door for a while, and I think anybody that follows this game and you ask opposing coaches, his attention to detail and what he puts into it really is unbelievable. And so for Salem, this is a nice step for them. You win a tournament like this is a nice step. Hey, listen, they're one of those programs that I think they're just a win away from being considered one of the usual suspects in the state, even with their good track record the last few years.
Calumet, one of the preseason favorites in Division III. They open up their season over the weekend with wins over their rivals from Hancock.
It's interesting. In talking to a couple of the coaches up there, and our old buddy Jimmy Young, we had a chance to interview him during the finals last year, who's done a great job covering Copper County. It's interesting. It's so far this year, and this seems to be the way it most people think it will be. It's, you got three teams there right now. You've got Calumet, you've got Houghton, and you got Marquette. Houghton found a way to knock off Marquette. By all accounts, a pretty good game. I think it was 3-2. But right now, Calumet, Houghton. Which is which? We're going to find out.
On the high school hockey preview last week, we talked about Brother Rice, how they were a sneaky good team last year. They made it all the way to the semifinals. On Wednesday, in front of a standing room only crowd, they gave CC its first loss in the state of Michigan since the 2018 semifinal against Brighton, 5-2.
And first of all, props to all the fans that went out there the night before Thanksgiving. That was awesome. Seeing some of the pictures, seeing some of the videos, awesome. I mean, Warrior Nation showed up. Shamrock Nation showed up. That's the way it should be. We say that Brother Rice is sneaky, and I even made the comment, John, I hope you guys don't take it the wrong way, because you were really good last year. Make no mistake about that. But I think a lot of times, John, maybe people talk about what's going on with Heartland because they've won back-to-back. Maybe they talk about Trenton because they've been able to take the long runs and everything, and maybe forget a little bit about Rice. And I think that's a horrible mistake this year because they're such a senior-laden team. That is a darn good Brother Rice team. And John, again, I'm going to say it again. I think right now you could make the case that one of maybe four teams might be the best in Division II.
Then on Saturday, they played Livonia Stevenson, a battle 4-4.
Well, that would be another team that if you wanted to say that Livonia Stevenson is the best in Division II, I'd probably go okay. By all accounts, another fantastic game. There's no harm in a tie, whether it be against Livonia Stevenson, whether it be against Brother Rice, regardless of where you're playing those games. Those are two traditionally good teams. Props to Brother Rice. They got down in that game. They scored a goal with about 7 minutes left, scored to tie it with 20 seconds left. A 4-4 tie. If you're Livonia Stevenson, especially after beating your crosstown rival to start the season, again, no hanging the head over that. You tied Brother Rice. And I'd say the same thing from the Rice perspective. You tied Livonia Stevenson. There's no head hanging over that. And it's time for the Coach's Corner segment of our show. And speaking of Brother Rice, a guy that had a front row seat for all the good things that are happening so far for the Warriors, longtime coach at this level, an assistant at Brother Rice, and also president of the Coaches Association, Jeff Fleming. First of all, Jeff, really appreciate you taking the time. Hey, tell us a little bit about what's going on with Brother Rice right now. You get that win against Catholic Central. You tie a highly ranked Livonia Stevenson team. Lots of good things happening right now with the Warriors.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Sean. And there's some exciting stuff happening. It's very early in the season, obviously, but it's a good way to start things out. Kids are playing well, but there's a long road in front of us. So.
I think this goes for any team out there, not just Brother Rice, but perhaps in your other stops, whether it be Berkeley, it goes anywhere. When you have a senior-laden team, there are just benefits. There's no other way to say it. You can't perhaps describe it. It just is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you cannot experience comes from being there day in, day out, and we have a lot of 2- and 3-year players on the team, and they've been, they've run through the semifinals the last 2 years. We've come up a little short, but they've played on those big stages, and you can't buy that experience. That experience comes from going through the steps. So.
And part of that experience is facing those big game moments. And this is something we say often here on the show. When you play in a league the caliber of the MIHL, there isn't a night off. And sometimes, that's said to the point of cliche, but when you take a look at Brother Rice schedule, CC schedule, Trenton schedule, you just don't get that night off. And that battle tested, there's something to be said about that.
Without a doubt. There's you have to bring it every night, and everybody's going to bring their best game against you, and you better bring your best game against them.
Jeff Fleming kindly joining us, of course, assistant coach at Brother Rice and president of the Coaches Association. I'm going to ask you to put the president's cap on for just a moment, because with that point, Jeff, one thing that I've seen the last few years, I've seen more teams do that around the state. I've seen teams say, whether it be the West Side, whether it be up in northern Michigan or in the UP, okay, where do we need to go? Who do we need to play? We'll host this year. We'll travel to you. But it really appears to me, Jeff, that everybody is, I hate to use this term, but again, rowing in the same direction, saying, let's load up these schedules as much as we can do it.
Yeah, so and that's again one of the things that we do. We go up to the UP, we play Calumet, we play Houghton, we play Hancock. It's a great event for us, for them. It's what a great place to play at the D or at the Coliseum there. Great environment. The people up there are just fantastic. We'll be out having breakfast or something, and they'll all say good luck, but we hope you lose, kind of thing, which is great, and it's a lot of fun. I believe that the state has come together more as a whole. A lot of that has to do with the Coaches Association, the clinics that we've put on, the hub, where all information is there about high school hockey. The coaches are interacting more. Our clinics are based on teaching. It's just not a room with guys sitting there, and we're throwing a bunch of information at it. Here's a bunch of X's and O's. It's really, this year was fantastic. The board really put on a good. We met in small pods, small groups to talk to people. We came back together. We got to meet a lot. There's a lot of new coaches out there. There's a ton of new coaches out there. And these are really important that we bring these guys in and help them to build their programs and make high school hockey stronger around the state.
Jeff Fleming kindly joining us, of course, assistant coach at Brother Rice, president of the Coaches Association. And, he mentioned it, but I'm going to say it again. We're going to say this every show. If you're a fan out there, if you're a player out there, and you're looking for high school hockey information, there is no better place to go than MIHSHockeyHub.com. They've got everything there. And on a personal note, Coach, I say this all the time, the coaches, the assistant coaches, whether it be a big fan, the fact that you have guys going in there now on a daily basis and updating scores. Because I can tell you, it wasn't that long ago, I'd be searching through Twitter for 15 minutes trying to find out who won the game the night before. It really is a place, it's a hub where everybody's going and getting that information out there.
It's taken a lot of work to get it to where it is now. I remember, I'd come home from games and I'd do the same thing. And then I was updating the hub just so scores were in there. Yeah. Dave and Craig back then and Mark and Bob and just everybody we really put a lot of effort into. But the coaches, last year and this year have really, I think, they understand that, parents are looking at that. The teams from around the state are looking at that. Scouts are looking at that. We get information. I get phone calls every year at the end of the year, guys from the North American League or up in the Ontario League, like all over that. They're like, tell me about this kid. Yeah. I'm looking on the hub and there's no information on it. And the coach, there's no information. So that's the message that we've been sending for the past couple of years. We need to get that information in because people are looking at that. And you're only as strong as the information that's in there.
There are so many important things coming up. Lots of tournaments, as you mentioned, whether it be the UP, whether it be Gaylord, whether it be MIHL, KLA Showdown coming up in a couple of weeks. But these are exciting times because I think one thing that most coaches agreed on is let's find a way to expand the playoffs. And further, not happening this year, but coming down the pipeline, I love this idea, and I know you had a big part of it. Let's make these events, not just the semifinals. The semifinals at USA Hockey Arena, it's a great venue. It's a great time. MHSA does a great job putting that show together. But let's include this to make the quarterfinals a special time. Can you pontificate on that?
With expanding the time of the playoffs from a 11 or 12 day gauntlet to a 3-week time period where we have 3 weekends in there. First of all, kids aren't missing as much school, and they're all student athletes, and that's really, really important. The travel will still be there, but it just won't be during school hours. With taking the quarterfinals to a Saturday, the hope and the goal here is to make the quarterfinals into an event where we can get all the quarterfinals at one venue, playing each other. Maybe it's up in mid-Michigan somewhere, up in Saginaw, and we have to have enough ice to be able to help that. So it might be a Friday, Saturday, but we're working on the logistics of all of that. It would be a great event day. It's very similar like what we do with the MIHL KLA day. It's just game after game after game, and somebody can come in, get a pass for the weekend, and see a lot of really good hockey.
Well, you mentioned scouts earlier. I challenged everybody last week, come out to one of these tournaments, go to the showcase down in Trenton, whatever the case may be, and I'm going to say it again. If you want to find a scout, go look up in the corner of the rink. He's got that notepad, he's got his cup of coffee, and I think that gives the opportunity for the scouts out there that maybe in the past would call Jeff Fleming or Kenny or Coach Vellucci, whoever the case may be, that gives them an opportunity. Well, forget, I don't have to make that phone call. I'm going to go to this place and see 4 or 5 kids at one location.
Right. If we can get these events going where there's, a beginning of the season event, later on, obviously there's 2 huge showcases in February with the MIHL showcase and the Public League showcase out in Chelsea, and we've created this with the KLA, which is just a great day. If we can get events like that and get these scouts, local scouts that are here looking at these kids and give them several opportunities to look at them, especially all in one venue, that's what they do, right? They make a day out of something, and it's pretty exciting. So there's a lot of very talented hockey players in the state of Michigan that play on many different teams, and they need to be out there. They need to be seen. They need that opportunity. So
Jeff Fleming was our guest, the Coach's Corner. Coach, always a pleasure to see you. Continued success to Brother Rice and certainly to the Coaches Association. Anything we can ever help you out with, we're here. It's been a pleasure to work with you guys. And while I'm at it, shout out to Michael Fleming as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't do that, right?
He's out of school today, so he gets to come in here and hang out with Dad for a little bit. So.
Nice to see you. Michael and I go way back. We ran into each other at a baseball game over the summer, but we won't tell you that story. Hey, Jeff, Merry Christmas to you and the family.
Tigers
did win. That was a rarity. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and the family. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for all that you and John do. We appreciate everything, State Champs.
Jeff Fleming, our guest here on the Coach's Corner.
All right, it's time now to reveal our first top 10 in our Hockey Player of the Year presented by National Coney Island. First off, Sean, shout out to National Coney Island for being the presenting sponsor for this award for the 3rd straight year.
Love it. Thank you guys so much. I think if you've followed me over the course of my career, Coney is a monetary value to me. So thank you.
Onions?
Extra onions on there, so thank you, National Coney Island.
So our first top 10 is on your screen right now. Sean, you have 6 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goaltender in your top 10. Let's talk about the goaltender in Joey Cormier from Trenton.
Well, I always say this comes from the coaches. This is all coming from coaches, and the list is fluid. This list is going to change. It changes every year. I had one coach in particular bring up an interesting point about Joey. He said, when you look at all the really great goaltenders in the state from last year, and he brought up Saginaw Heritage, he brought up Heartland, he brought up obviously DCD and Samavola. He said Joey was in that mix, and right now, with all those guys gone, Joey might make the case for being the goalie this year. And that's a pretty big statement. But, this is a guy that's been in the mix for a few years for Chad Clements and a big part of a lot of their success.
Earlier in the show, we talked about Brighton and Calumet, and they have a player on the list in Will Gents and Tanner Rowe.
Yeah, and both of them were unanimous choices. For whatever that's worth, I tap, usually 10 to 15 coaches on the shoulder. I said, give me a list. And I'm not going to tell you everybody that was a unanimous choice. There were a few, but I can tell you both of these guys were unanimous choices. So when you get a group of between 10 and 15, I'm not going to tell you the exact same number, but when you get a group of coaches that everybody agrees, I think that tells you all you need to know. And that's why both of those guys are firmly entrenched on this list.
If we have to say we have a preseason favorite for this award, would you have to say it's right now Kyle Gaffney from Detroit Catholic Central?
No doubt about it. I mean, I had 2 coaches, they're all going to remain anonymous. I had 2 coaches say best player in the state, something like that. So now listen, we've seen that before, and another guy's been able to swoop in, but he's a special player. And, the thing about him, and if you've watched him play, it isn't just what he does dynamic. He does everything. He's just one of those guys that you keep an eye on him every time he's on the ice.
All right, so voting will start this weekend. You can vote at statechampsnetwork.com. Remember, the leading vote getter will never get removed from the list, and they will have a 20% advantage to winning this award. So that's our first top 10 in our Hockey Player of the Year award presented by National Coney Island.
Go get a Coney right now. Support them.
All right, let's take a look ahead in this week in high school hockey. Let's start with the action on Wednesday. Trenton, who you have number 6 in your rankings, they go on the road at number 13 Grosse Pointe South. A big MIHL matchup right off the bat.
Hey, props to Coach Moretz doing a heck of a job with the Blue Devils so far. Again, one of those teams, they don't play an easy schedule, but making some noise. They continue to win. They're going to be in the top 5. I mean, no doubt about that. Trenton, just another test for the Trojans. That'll be a good one.
The Catholic League tournament starts on Wednesday, and you got a huge game right off the bat with Brother Rice and Orchard Lake St. Mary.
Yeah, you got to love that. I mean, that's the cool thing about, John, this week there are a lot of highly ranked teams playing each other. That is but one of those games. 2 teams that already got off to a good start already, so we'll keep an eye on that.
And another good one in that tournament is Riverview Gabriel Richard going up against Cranbrook. A good early test battle between both teams.
Yeah, and you know what? 2 teams that I think are still trying to find their legs. 2 teams that what they are now and what they are at the end of the year are going to be 2 different things. John, we've seen it out of Riverview Gabriel Richard. Man, boy, you get that team around playoff time. They are a tough out for anybody.
All right, we go to the west side of the state as Byron Center takes on Muskegon Reese Puffer.
Yeah, an opportunity for Byron Center to bounce back. I know Granville knocked them off. Some of the coaches that I talked to said that Byron Center was going to be one of the top teams out there. They still may be, but it seems I say this every year, the wild, wild west. You know, there's so many good programs out there now that on any given night are going to have that opportunity to pop you off. So we're going to keep an eye on that one. You know, we mentioned Muskegon. Reese Puffer, a lot of people talking about Mona Shores. You know, I had one coach tell me, by the time January rolls around, look out for Mona Shores. So we'll see what that's all about.
Then we go to Mid-Michigan for the first meeting of the season between Midland and Midland Dow.
Yeah, you know what? I think 2 teams that have taken a step up. Midland Dow in particular to me, John.
And you got a player on the player of the year.
Absolutely. When you have a kid that, you know, a lot of coaches mentioned, and we had no choice but to put him on the player of the year in Blasey, it's going to be interesting to see how good they are. But, hey, John, listen, you know this better than anybody. That area, there's some good hockey being played in that area, whether it be from Davis, you know, going up
Flint Powers,
up 75, you know, to Flint Powers and going on up to Saginaw Heritage. There's a heck of a lot of good hockey going up to Midland.
Country Day, the 2-time defending state champs, they take on Liggett on Thursday, and then they got to follow up on Friday against Livonia Stevenson.
I love that you've seen DCD and Livonia Stevenson get together the last couple of years. I think that's fantastic. You know, last year they played not too far from where our studios are here in Southfield, and they get together this year at Eddie Edgar. I'm going to have a chance to see that one up close and personal. So, hey, again, you know, you're talking about a battle between 2 potentially top 5 teams, not only now, but when all is said and done. Boy, you want to make an effort to see a game like that.
Lake Orion is off to a 3-1-1 start. They have 3 games in a row starting Thursday. They got Rochester United, then you got Utica Eisenhower, and then you got their rivals from Clarkston on Saturday.
Well, that's what I love. You know, and again, you know, we talk about these teams that we were looking at the rankings and trying to figure out. I think the Dragons are one of those teams that keep it up, and we have no choice but to put you in the rankings. They're going to have an opportunity. Ike's off to a good start. If they knock off Ike, I think they're going to be knocking really hard on the door. But as you mentioned, listen, 3 games in a week. Good luck to that, boys.
A couple of KLA teams are going to the west side of the state. Northville plays Granville on Friday and then Rockford on Saturday. Then you got Plymouth. They'll play Grand Rapids Catholic Central, and then they'll play Granville on Saturday.
Well, I think it's fantastic. You know, Joel Brazil and Granville, they were such a young team last year, but they're off to a nice start right now. Northville's feeling good about themselves after winning a couple games. Jerry Vento and Plymouth, they're off to a nice start. They let one get away against Novi. Novi tied them 5-5, but they're off to a good start as well. So GRCC, one of the best teams. They could make an argument along with maybe West Ottawa right now that they're the best team out on the west side. They have a guy that's on our player of the year list. He actually made an appearance last year as well. So some darn good games. Go out there and support a darn good product, huh?
And Heartland, the 2-time defending Division II state champs, your number 1 team in the state, they're going to the UP this weekend to play Hancock and Houghton.
Wouldn't you love to be up there? I'll tell you what, I'd love to be up there for both those games. And not like Copper County. You heard Coach Fleming talk about that. I love going up there anyway. But I'll tell you what, in particular, Houghton and Heartland going at it, two teams that kind of play a similar style and just keep coming at you. That'll be a dandy.
And you have Heartland, the number one team in the state. Your thoughts on why they're number one right
You know what? I think number one, you have to include what they've done the last couple of years. They've obviously won back-to-back championships, and they've started out unbeaten. And they're another team. They just reload every year. And, I think in concert with what they've done the last couple of years, what the groundwork that Coach Gadwa has laid out there and their start, I had no choice but to put Heartland number one.
Okay, so that's it for another edition of State Champs Hockey Time. And we'll be back here again next Wednesday. So, Sean, what's your favorite saying at the end of the show?
We'll see you at the rink.
State Champs Hockey Time is presented by Alta Equipment Company, Michigan's #1 construction equipment provider with over 40 brands. Get the right equipment for your project every time. Also brought to you by the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association. For all things Michigan High School hockey, go to the Hub, MIHSHockeyHub.com. National Coney Island, doggone good. Lawrence Technological University, where Blue Devils dare. And the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. The greatest honor a high school senior student athlete can earn, Detroit Athletic Club's Athlete of the Year. You're one of the tops in your sport. Prioritize education and giving back, like Cassius Winston, Megan Bobian, Rakia Jackson, and Aiden Hutchinson did. 6 male, 6 female nominees earn $1,000 in scholarship money, with $5,000 each to be awarded at a red carpet gala in downtown Detroit. Nominations accepted now. Download the application, DACAthleteoftheyear.com.